try to, is it possible to?
Yes, we are seeing the screen now.
Oh, okay. Just the screen, right? Not the videos.
We are seeing the presentation now.
Okay, great. So, like Sonia said, we are going to talk about a little bit about using QDA, Qualitative Data Analysis software, to do qualitative research, and we will focus on webQDA. And my goal is to show its potentials and why you should think about using or considering using this software. I want to thank Pedro Costa for inviting me to do this. He's with us, so if you have difficult questions, he will be the right person to pose them. Don't be afraid, he will answer with all the pleasure. So let's start. So cloud computing and qualitative research, data analysis with the support of webQDA software. Okay. So I don't have any information regarding you. I know that some of you are from different parts of the world. You are researchers, and you are definitely all aware that qualitative, quantitative research are two big perspectives, and our view on research is not that qualitative is better than quantitative. We recognize positive features of both, and we consider that the good path implies on combining both. So each of them, quantitative perspective and qualitative perspective, bring us different information. If we want quantity, if we want to identify rules, we will go to a quantitative perspective. If we want to go in depth and to understand the meaning of experience and how processes evolved, we need to have a qualitative perspective. It's great when we can combine both, and this way we can have a better understanding of our world. Individually, I identify myself primarily with qualitative research. Is my interest, but I am fully aware that the best option is always to combine both of them. And when we can do that, it's great. So qualitative researchers find they have many challenges to deal with. One of them has to do with diversity of research settings, diversity of formats and data types, and probably one that you have already faced has to do with large amounts of data. And I believe that one of the main features of QDA, namely webQDA, has to do with helping us in dealing with large amounts of data. It helps us to keep an order on the data and to keep track of all our work. And it's very it enables organizing information and organizing analysis in our time. So one of the features of that most QDAs or qualitative data analysis software enable has to do with conducting mixed methods. Another challenge that we face is when doing triangulations, and you all know, I'm sure, that doing triangulation has to do with quality and showing that our research is more solid. So this is also something important that we want to do, and luckily QDAs will help us doing it. It also, it's a challenge that we are facing ever more. It's working with different people all around the world. And once again, showing that qualitative research is not subjective. It's a scientific method that looks at the subjectivity of our participants. So this is, I believe, one of our main struggles of qualitative researchers. And as someone that teaches qualitative research, I found it particularly challenging to show to students, undergraduate students, how we can show that doing qualitative research is scientific and is something that needs to be very rigorous. Another challenge has to do with being able to integrate information communication technologies in all phases of the study, and also something that I find very interesting is QDAs have been evolving to supporting us not only during analyzing the data, but also during the phase of conception of the project. So in all of our project, we can have this tool that help us to think on our literature review, to think on research goals, gather data instruments, etc. So the way that I look for QDAs is not as something that I use only in one stage of my research, but during all the process. So we have challenges for the researchers, and we also have challenges for QDAs. And these have to do with how to cope with different formats and data types. And when we see just in a minute the evolution of different softwares, we can see that they have been evolving in a way as to integrate different types of data, and particularly in our days where internet is has such a huge presence in our life. We have many data available, and QDAs need to be ready to help us analyze that data. Giving us flexibility as a researcher, this is also one feature that I find very important in QDA. I want a software that has structure, that has this clear, friendly structure, but that also gives me flexibility to organize the material, the data, as I see fit and according to my project. So QDAs also need to consider that researcher will need to organize information in different ways. They will analyze using different techniques, and softwares will be more attractive to us as researchers if they allow us to do analysis as we wish. Enable collaborative work. You all know that this is a major trend. We need to work in networks. And this brings us to the importance of having software that works in the cloud as QDA. So this is one of the softwares that help us fulfilling this feature, doing collaborative work. You can work on the same project being in different countries, which is great. Also, the need to reduce the learning curve of the tools. We need softwares that we can learn fast. If you are doing a PhD, a master thesis, you don't want to be stressed out also with learning to work with the QDA. You need to focus on your research, on your data, on your conceptual background, and you want a tool, QDA, that is friendly, that helps you, that doesn't require you to having lots and lots of training and losing many nights of sleep. You will do that just by analyzing your data. You don't need to do it with the software. Okay, so here we present you some data regarding how QDA have been evolving. We can track it to 1966 with MIT, and we can see that some important dates have to be has to do with 2000 and the year 2000, when softwares began to integrate more data format like video, image, audio, and text. I would also like to stress 2009, when we have the development of software in computer context in the cloud. And I think it's, I'm a proud Portuguese, so I'd like to stress that webQDA is one of the softwares that that works this way, and like I said, will enable doing collaborative work. So most part of softwares work for Windows environment, but we have a growing tendency for having versions also for Mac. Okay, so what type of qualitative data do we have, and that our QDAs will hopefully allow us to work with? These are some of the type of data. Clinical reports, personal documents, field notes. So we have here text, right? Photographs, so visual data also. We can have videos, and videos will imply audio and visual data that we can also analyze, namely in webQDA. We can have subjects discourse, namely using an interview, official documents, for instance. And this is an example that is very well known. Brandão, one of the main name in content analysis, she did analysis of different journals, newspapers, sorry. So official documents, journals all are an example of this type of information. We can analyze police reports, etc. So qualitative research, and particularly data analysis, require us to working with data, collecting them, transcribing them, or preparing them to be analyzed, organizing them. It's one of the ways to, as a qualitative researcher, to show that you are doing a good job, that your work has credibility, is showing that you organize well your information. And this will imply, for instance, doing a good transcript, dividing data into manageable units, data synthesis. So you have all this data. The process of analyzing requires, will enable you to bringing order to the data, understanding what is all of this that you gather, what are people saying, whether it's in interviews, in videos, etc. But how do people think about their experience? What do they say regarding the process and the events that they witness? So you want to look at all this data and have a technique that will allow you to put into small, manageable units all this information. And you want to look for patterns. Are ideas more present when people talk about something specific? Patterns may have to do also with occupation and age. Do people think about different subjects, connecting them? They say that, for instance, the world is more dangerous because of a specific politics. We want to look at how our data is organized. Okay? We want to understand and identify the important concepts, the important ideas for our participants, or maybe also the different phases of a process. And we want to build a theory or enrich already existing theory from our data. That's one of the main things that give us pleasure, is when our research enables us to present a rationale regarding our research questions, and also how to present our data. So we want a software that helps us doing all of this, namely organizing information and preparing information for us to write a report, a thesis, a paper. So without software, this is a very hard work. Many researchers have done it, and when they think of it, they remember all the time that it requires. And here we have some examples. Maybe some of you have already used this. We are hoping that by the end of the session, you will see that this was old days. Now you can do it in a much more easy way. Some researchers use Excel, and we here have the data organized in Excel, Word, and old-fashioned hand, and having a board and using a scissor and organizing our information. This is takes more time, and if you have large amount of data, it's very easy to get lost and to have more difficulty finding patterns. And also another difficulty that I find is that we can destroy using QDAs has to do with putting information in context. When you do it by hand, you have the text here that you put it in a specific category, okay? But then you lose all the information that our participants said, and that is prior and after this particular section of data. Okay. So QDAs allow you to always go back and forth to the data and the context of that data, the larger paragraph, the whole interview, etc. So Miles and Huberman, who you all have heard of, I'm sure, have stressed that a researcher who does not use software beyond the word processor will be hampered in comparison to those who do use this type of software. It's more portable, it's more manageable, it makes analysis more efficient. So here I will present just briefly some ideas that these colleagues have identified regarding what are the features of the features of a specific software that make you decide to choose one or another, because we have many softwares available in the market. And in this particular study, 2014, we have here the factors, the elements of QDAs that are that satisfy users when they choose a specific tool, and we have in this right side this satisfaction factors. So what is important to when we choose a software? Is it easy to use? This is very important, and it connects with what we were talking about regarding the learning curve. We want a software that is easy and quick to understand, so I can use it to facilitate my work and not hamper it. I want a software that has adequate functionalities. This means that it does what I need, and sometimes this means not having too much tools, because too much tools may slow the learning curve, and it may be more difficult to manage the software. I want the software that contributes towards my research. It has a good ratio price-quality, and it's easy to learn. Easy to learn, easy to use, being friendly. So what dissatisfied people regarding software? It doesn't have the functionalities that I want. It's pricey. Oh, sorry. It's pricey. It's not. Oh, it says here easy of learning. It's not easy to learn. Okay, this is a typo. I'm sorry. It's difficult to use, and there is lack of compatibility. This has to do with the software doesn't works well with other tools. So we decide to use a specific QDA, Qualitative Data Analysis software, and we wanted to have tools that will be helpful to do our job. These tools have to do with searching our content. So we want software that help us to look and to find out where are our data, in what categories are the data, who said who. We want software that enables to link data, categories, and also to link the software, the project that is our file, electronic file, with other platforms. This is fundamental, as you all probably know. Coding is one of the main tools that qualitative researchers use. So we need, obviously, that the software has these tools. We want tools to explore our data, to conduct queries. We also want software that allow us to make notes and reflections on the software itself. Remember that I was saying that I look at QDAs as something that is with me since the beginning of my research. So I want that in my file, in my project, and I'm referring now to the webQDA project, the file. I wanted to have all the information regarding the project, and this may be, and we will see that webQDA has it, a journal, a research journal. And I also want the software to have a space where I can put my ideas as I'm doing the analysis. So I'm coding, but I'm also having ideas like, I think that participants are trying to say something, or I have the feeling that this will be an important concept. A good QDA will allow you to put that information in writing as you are analyzing. And mapping or networking tools, this is also a feature of some QDAs like concept maps, etc. So here we see some packages that we can find out there. Like webQDA is the one that we are focusing today, and is one of the few that works in the cloud. So it makes us very available to researchers, as I said, in different places, and you don't need to install it in your computer. So as long as you have your credentials and an internet connection, you are ready to go. So who built QDA? We have here the names of the people who think of QDA. Antonio Pedro Costa, as I said, is with us. Antonio Moreira, a professor also at University of Aveiro, is another of the authors, and Professor Francis Leinari de Souza. So this software is connected to Universidade de Aveiro, and presently it's supported by Ludomedia and Microio. So Professor Antonio Pedro Costa works with Universidade de Aveiro and at Ludomedia. So here we have the logo of webQDA, and the name has to do, or it looks at reinforcing the being a tool that works on the cloud, and it was developed and it's designed to assist researchers to handle non-numeric and unstructured data in qualitative analysis. Nonetheless, it has the ability to combine itself with other tools in projects that have mixed design. So you can import to webQDA data from questionnaire if you have open data, of course. If you only have quantitative data, you don't need to use webQDA to analyze it. You will use a specific software, but you can have, for instance, you can have your research questionnaire with quantitative and qualitative data and import the qualitative data to webQDA and analyze it. And you can also conduct analysis at webQDA and export them to Excel, and then you can analyze, you can conduct statistics analysis in Excel, Stata, SPSS, as you wish. So, big features of webQDA that I believe go with hand with what qualitative researchers look when they are conducting research: to build categories, to encode, that is connecting data to categories, and manage, filter. This has to do with conducting analysis considering specific criteria, namely the gender of those that give us information, and in final, to have an answer to our research questions. So we believe that in academic context, this is a tool that has its full, bigger potential. Maybe it has to do with being helpful for students conducting doctoral thesis and master thesis. So it's, I believe that giving it being easy to learn and easy to use is particularly useful for this type of public. But it has also been used by senior researchers. It also always has to do with what do you need the software to do? Do you find yourself mastering it or not? But this software is not only to be used in academic context, it can also be used in business context by private organizations, namely to analyze data that organizations collect regarding how public is reacting to their products. Or you may know that one major techniques that many organizations use is focus group, to understand how the public will react to a specific product. You can also use webQDA to analyze that data. So we look at webQDA as the tool. Well, I'm speaking of webQDA, but qualitative data analysis fundamental to conducting qualitative research. If you have, when you collect quantitative data, you think of analyzing using SPSS. If you have qualitative data, you should think about using a QDA, and I would say particularly webQDA. So, of course, that webQDA will not make your research better. If you have a bad research project, it's not the use of webQDA that will make it perfect. You need to look at this tool as a tool, as something that will help you, will make the process of qualitative analysis more manageable and more understandable. But you need to have competencies as a qualitative researcher. And this has to do with, you have to build a good research project. You have to have sound research questions, feasible research objectives. You need to have a good theoretical framework. Your instruments to collect the data need to be well developed. You have to have a strong design that connects the different aspects of the research. You need to think wisely what type of selection, what are the criteria you will use to select the people you will interview, what type of data will you use, because we have other than interview, transcription is a very, very important thing. I believe that if, as qualitative researchers, we are interested in what's the context, where data is produced, we need to have good transcriptions that present all the nuances of the experience of the situation where the data was produced. So these are some of the frequently asked questions regarding webQDA. What type of research can I use with webQDA? webQDA allows you to conduct different types of research, of qualitative research. So you can do an exploratory, descriptive, correlational research, qualitative research, of course. Different designs. You can use webQDA to conduct a case study, to do ethnography, research action, etc. This has to do with something that I was talking about earlier. I want software that has a structure, but at the same time gives me flexibility to use a specific design, to use a specific tool for analyzing the data. How does the use of webQDA differ from traditional research tools and qualitative analysis? Well, it differs in that it gives you a way to better manage the data, to always have the data in context, so you don't lose the connection between coding unit and the bigger picture. And it also assists you on conducting analysis, and it's more feasible to identify patterns. Will I spend less time analyzing you using webQDA? Well, some less time, yes, but this takes us to the next picture. I will come back to the other one. The work using webQDA takes some of the work, but you still have to conduct the analysis. Doing qualitative research will remain hardworking and time-consuming. Yes, of course, it will be less time-consuming than if you don't use a software, of course. But you will still have to analyze data, think about concepts, and I think this is one of it's time-consuming, is challenging, but it's also one of the interesting things of qualitative research is the ability and opportunity to look at the data and thinking about it. So the software will not think for you, will not think on the data for you, but it will give you tools that make that thinking and that reasoning more interesting and sometimes quicker. Can the use of webQDA improve the quality of my work? I strongly believe in this. Not only because I don't lose the context of the data, but also because I can, using collaborative tools, share my work with others, and then they can audit my work. And also, another tool that webQDA brings us that has to do with the quality of my work is the journal, the research journal, and other tools that we will also see. I have only 2 interviews. Is it worth spending time to learn how to use webQDA? Well, since this is a tool that research shows that it's easy to learn, it's easy to use, and we also know that doing qualitative analysis is time-consuming, and that webQDA helps you and facilitates the work, I will say yes. If you only have 2 interviews, this type of software is still something that is worth spending time to learn, because you will not spend as much time as you may initially think. So we were talking about unconfirmed expectations. One has to do with the analysis is still going to be conducted by you, the researcher, you will not have, or the software doesn't present you innovative solutions or formulas that say, that presents a reading of the data. No, that reading is still up to you as a researcher. And I think that that's one of the things that makes qualitative research interesting and attractive. Here we have the three main vectors of webQDA. We have sources, coding, and questioning. These three vectors that are present in the webQDA are also, they are present in all qualitative work, right? So you have data that has to do with sources, you have analyzing, coding, and you have querying, looking at the data and identifying patterns. And this, the process of conducting queries, of questioning the data, will allow you, using webQDA, to find information that will be helpful in writing of results in qualitative analysis. And some of the features are also very interesting when you are presenting at a conference, presenting your work at a conference. So here we have the pillars, or the vectors that I was talking about. The source system that requires using coding procedures. Then we have to, using webQDA, and during our coding process, we have to think on validation procedures, and this is also possible using webQDA, and inference procedures. And then we have questioning. And look at the hour, so let me try to go straight ahead. Some, like the technical specifications, I will not spend too much time here. I want to stress that webQDA works with different type of sources. We have some requirements that you need to be considerate. When you get this presentation, you can look at some of this information in more detail. So this is how we create a project in webQDA. We will just soon go to the software, but you can see that it's very intuitive. So new project plus, so we click there to have a new project. This is our what we find when we are in a project. This is our dashboard. So here we have the name of our research project. The name is given by the researcher. And then we have the three vectors that I was talking about. Our sources, data, our coding, conducting queries, questioning our data, and we also have this other vector, management, that has to do with making our project available to someone else, having a journal, etc. So this information, sources, and coding is also present here. So when we enter at a project, we can see basic information regarding that project. So how many internal sources do I have? Do I have nodes? How many codes or categories of analysis do I already have, etc. Here we have a very interesting tool that has to do with visualing. So when we look at here, what does this say? They say that in this project, Learning Qualitative Research, I have already some categories. I have looked at my data, and I have seen that when thinking about how is to learn a qualitative research method, people present some aspects regarding which they are dissatisfied, some that represent discovery, some things that they learned, some aspects regarding which they are satisfied, surprises they had, and transposition that in this project has to do with what can I take to my day-to-day life and my professional future. Another important thing that you can find straight ahead in this first image in your dashboard has to do with the logbook. So the logbook is something that we will find at management, and I find it a very important tool. So this is your research journal, and you have the possibility of, and this is something that when I talk with my master students and undergraduate students, I tell them, each time that you go and work in your project, you put a new log, you put a new information. So this is, I find, very, very helpful. This helps you to keep track of your work, and at any time you can go back and see what, where are you coming from, what have you already done, etc. So at management, we can invite other people to see my project. They can be guests. This means they will only look at the project, but they will not have the ability to change the project, or they can have more power, for lacking a better word, privilege. That's it, and they can also edit your work. So, for instance, if you are conducting PhD and you want your supervisor to see your data and see your coding structure, you can invite him and he will look at your project, but he will not be able to change anything. Something that is recent in webQDA, and you may find it very interesting, is the possibility of importing codes from another project. So imagine that you already conduct research on how is the process of learning qualitative research, to do qualitative research. So I did this project 2 years ago, and at that time I used this, I built this coding structure that was very interesting, and it helped me to give sense to my data. So using this feature, import codes, I can go back and bring the coding structure, not the data, but the coding structure and other features of that project. So that will be helpful, because that way I don't have to look at the other project and building each category by turn. I already have the structure, and that structure is not rigid. You can also change it if you find that one category does not make sense on the present research. So it's also interesting to see that 2 years ago it made sense, and now it doesn't, but you have all the liberty to change it. Regarding sources, so we go to this vector, we are at sources, and we just go and we upload a source. So we can bring our interview transcripts to our software, to our project, to our digital file, or we can build a new document, a new source in the software. For instance, you want to do the transcript directly in the software. So here what we have data that was collected, that is in a source. We can see here where is it in the software. It's in an internal source. It's in reports fact sheet, and this will be a folder, and then it's on the source, the file. People can use service when they need them. So what you see in yellow is data that is coded. So you have here information nodes. This data, the software is telling you that it's already coded. Something very interesting in this software is that when you go with your mouse in this sections that have the yellow background, you will see the category or the node that is associated with that information. Here on the right side, we have the nodes that we can use on our project. We can also use and analyze images, once again, our structure, node structure, and once again, our the path where we are, where this data is. We can analyze audio. We need to track specific time periods and introduce information, and we may code that information. We can also analyze videos. They may be found in, you may have collected them, or you may find them in the internet. So here you see that this video is at external source. An external source has to do with, or the difference is, internal source, it means that it is on your project. It belongs to the file. External source, it means that you have linked your project to something that is outside. And why would you do that? Because it's very big video or audio, because it's something that is on the internet, etc. So here I have a small information regarding when you put data from, for instance, the YouTube. This is something that I was talking about some days ago with Sonia, that welcomed us, and she made this. She stressed this information that I think is very useful when we bring, when we want to have a link from information, presentation, audio, etc. that is on the YouTube. We need to go get this information, not this link, but this link. Regarding coding, so we will use the vector coding, and we can have free codes, tree nodes. We can also have descriptors and also classifications that have to do with telling the software what are the characteristics of my participants, like gender, age, job occupation, etc. So what's a code? A code is a unifying topic of ideas. It's what helps us to give order to our data and to synthesize it. And it may, using webQDA, we may, using coding, have information like this. So in the interview with John, what's his gender, age, length of service, nationality, etc. And to identify this information, we will have to use the tool attributes. And we can also group all the information regarding one specific participant, or for instance, imagine that you conducted focus group in 3 different times, and you can also have, you need to tell the software that these different focus groups were conducted with the same person. So to do that, we will use the tool cases. So webQDA is prepared to use the 2 types of nodes: descriptive nodes and interpretative nodes. Interpretative nodes are what's most valuable to us as qualitative research, because it has to do with interpreting information. But descriptive nodes are also very important, because you need to know who are this person, who are these people. So you need to present the characteristics of your participants. So to have descriptive codes, we will use descriptors, and to use interpretative codes, we will use tree nodes and free nodes. Okay, so here, heads up, Ludomedia will conduct a learning course on the subject, how to code the contents of the documents and categories created by the research. Here we are doing an overview of webQDA, but there are there are several events planned, and if you click on this link, you will have information regarding that, and you may find courses that are more in-depth and specific to your needs. So here we have interpretative coding, selecting the data as you are reading it, looking at your tree structure and associating the data with the code. And like I said before, once you have coded the data, it will appear having a yellow background. And as you pass the mouse over it, you will find the name of the category. And you will have the ability to say, oh, I did a mistake, this is not the category that I wanted. You have the possibility of, at that moment, uncoding it. This means taking off the data from that category. Of course, one important thing is that the data is always intact. When you connect data to a category, the data still remains on its source, on the interview, etc. But you have access to that data in its context, like the full transcript of the interview, but also in categories. So here we have an example of an audio that is also that you can also code. And regarding questioning have to do with looking at my research questions and thinking what are the queries, what are the procedures that I need to conduct to finding the patterns on my data. So we have webQDA help us to present us with tools that help us to answer to questions like what is encoded simultaneously in two categories, what's encoded in one category but it's not in the other, what's the role of attributes in how people talk about something, and if I combine two categories in a third one, will I find some relationship with a fourth category? So this is examples. I think I will go now to the software. The idea of this information now is to tell you that we can, one of the important questioning tools has to do with metrics, and these are examples, but I will go to the software. So here we are. This is the software, and as you see, we are on the internet. And what do we have? We have here the projects that I have on my space. And if you click here, okay, so I already had another project that is closed. It's suspended. Okay, so I am working on this two projects. So if I click twice on it, it will take me to my dashboard, like we saw on the presentation. So here are the 4 vectors. I can see that I already have 3 internal sources in this project, 3 external sources. I have 1 node. I already used codes, and these are my codes. So my code map, I can say, okay, so my data is organized in this. My data, I mean, what people said is organized in this way. So I can see that when they talk, they are satisfied with learning to use to do qualitative research using QDA. This particular research had to do with asking master students with how is to learn doing qualitative research using a software, and they were satisfied with the ability to contact in not a theoretical way but in a practical way with the tool, and it was a new instrument, it was a new information, something new to learn. So we click here, and here are our internal sources, external, so we will, you can see we have a very clean screen and very intuitive. Like we saw in the presentation, okay, we want to bring another internal source. We will upload it, and then the software will say, okay, where is it? And I will just bring it. Once it's here, in this case, I like a lot folders and organization. So I built I built 4 folders. Once again, it has to do, this is flexible. If you don't want to have folders, you don't need. But in my case, I have here my data. So this is one source. I will click it. Okay, so here is the data. This with the yellow background. Okay, so this was coded at satisfaction. And as I put the mouse over it, I can have the option of uncoding it. So are you sure you want to decode? Yes, I'm sure. So now it's uncoded. This has to do with other thing. It's another category. Which one? Direct contact with the software. Okay, but this is too much information. I don't want to see it. Okay, you click hide coding, and now you don't see it. You click again, and now you see it. So it's very, very intuitive. So here you have information regarding codes that if you want to see the descriptors associated with this information, you change the option. And now you see, okay, so this is associated with one descriptor. Okay, so external sources, notes. I also find it a very important tool. This is the type of tool that I use to make reflections regarding my project. As I'm coding, I will come here and I will say something interesting to looking at has to do with what people said regarding A, B, C. So here we will go. Note, very easy. Give a name to the note. Then you write it. You save it. And here it is. So this was the one that I just created. Double click, and here I go again. Edit, and I'll be able to keep on writing. Save it. I go, no, I don't want this note anymore. It's not useful. Okay, you just go to the trash bin, delete, and it's done. Okay, coding. 3 nodes, free nodes. So free nodes are the nodes that you built and you don't have yet, you haven't identified connection between them. 3 nodes that look in our dashboard are nodes or categories that have relation between them. The descriptors, I use descriptors to represent my participants. So in this research, I have 5 participants. If I double click at P1, I will see the data that this participant said. And we can see that participant 1 has 1 source, but participant 2 has 2 sources. So I will have information regarding, I'll have 2 sources of information for participant 2. Classifications are associated with descriptors, but I will leave that to another opportunity given the time. Questioning. Questioning refers to exploring data, finding patterns. One tool that, most frequent words is a query that is very interesting, I believe, in earlier stages of the process of the analysis. For instance, I did analysis. What you see here are 2 queries, most frequent word queries that I already did and that I save it in the program. So this is useful because you want to imagine that you want to know what did people say on the first focus group. So you will do a new query. Thus, you will say, I want to know what my participants said at focus group moment 1. I'm a very strong advocate for putting your description as long as you may, because if you come back here in a week, in 2 weeks, You come to the description and you know, okay, so this was where I was going to. So here I will say, I want to know the most frequent words at focus group 1, but I want to know only the 20 most frequent words, because that will give me enough information. And I want the analysis to consider words that have 4 letters. This way I will put aside words that are too small, like but, that may have no meaning. Restrictions. So do you want to your analysis to be conducted in all your data, or you just want to consider a particular data? In that case, we were saying, okay, I just want the data from focus group 1. So imagine that this was data from focus group at moment 1. So I will say save, and this means that my search for 20 most frequent words at my project with a minimum size of 4 letters will consider only the information at that moment. So I save it, then I double click, and here are my data. Now I have to look at it and see what does it mean. So I will look at that and this. Doesn't say anything too much in terms of content, but I will look at qualitative, I will look at analysis, and you may see that in your right side of the screen, you find the context where the words were presented. See? So I will look at research. Where is research? Here it is. Learning. That's an important word, I would think, in this type of project. So let's look at what people said. Here we have interesting, I will just 2 more minutes and then I'll give you the word. You have here the, what we call the cloud of words. So what we have represented here are the words that we found here, but with a different visual aspect. And as bigger the word, it means that it's more present in the data. This is interesting, for instance, to use at conferences. The software has tools that, okay, this doesn't say anything. I don't want it to show. Software allows you to put the word away. So just to finish, I will come here at management, if I am able to, management, okay. So here you have information regarding the user, and you can invite someone like we were talking about. The logbook is here. So for instance, I could say here, webinar on webQDA, save, and here it is. So next time I come to this project, this information will pop up at my dashboard. The workflow has to do, it's a tool that works in complementation. Yeah, it's complementary. I'm not sure if I'm using the right word, I'm sorry. With the logbook. So this is what you can do. For instance, imagine, I'm seeing it's in Portuguese, but it says here, creating a project. So I already created a project. You will come and you will say check. And you will say note, I did this with my supervisor. Okay, so the information will be here. Okay, so I think that I did an overview of the software. I think that Sonia, maybe we can